Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. I'm Mark Mezadourian. I'm an intuitive specializing in connecting with angels and guides. And our goal tonight is to focus on solutions, to focus on an expansion of healing. And I'm hosting this with my friend Melanie from New Renaissance Bookshop in Portland. And our main focus of this whole group is to shine light on New Renaissance and to and the community connected with New Renaissance in Portland. And our guest tonight is Tricia Martin-Owen, who is in Colorado and has her own preschool, just showing Melanie pictures of kids having fun outside at her preschool, which I'll show you a bit later. And then Tricia will speak about that. And one of the main intentions here, as in this book group about trauma, is one of the healings that we could experience is to recognize what's going to go away. And part of what Tricia is doing very well is ending institutional and educational trauma. And isn't that a great thing to celebrate? That's going to be off the table for a generation of folks. So she'll speak in just a bit, and welcoming other folks as they come in. But we're going to start with a let's say a 10-minute angel clearing, okay? So everyone's muted. Okay. Wonderful. So we'll just take in a breath. And we'll just begin with prayer. So thank you, Mother, Father, God. Thank you, archangels and ascended masters, for the perfect grace, perfect clarity, and perfect peace that is here for each of us and all of us right now. Thank you to the angelic realm, the elemental realm, our ancestors, spirit guides, animal guides, and guardian angels. We choose to release any tension, any constriction, any confinement, be that from this moment, from thoughts, from beliefs, from the past, or from anticipation. We allow right now for freedom to exist in this moment, and we choose to breathe into this freedom. And we thank the angels that we know by name. We thank Archangel Michael for cleansing and clearing our energy field. We thank Archangel Gabriel for tremendous peace in all of our communication and all messages, including our messages and communications to ourselves and about ourselves. We allow right now for there to be harmony in all of our relationships. And we celebrate a healing in mind, body, spirit, and emotions right now. We recognize that we're here, that we've arrived together to heal and to witness that healing is happening, that there are people who care, and that we are all cared for and cared about. And we welcome incredible peace into this moment right now. So just gently breathe in to all of that. And we'll notice incredible peace being here right now. And whether we feel him, see him, hear him, or know that he is here, if we could just notice Archangel Michael standing right behind you. Perhaps he's really tall, like 10 feet tall or 15 feet tall. If we could just notice the very big Archangel Michael being right behind you right now. And if we could notice, like a ballet dancer, we'll just notice Archangel Michael's elegant movement that creates more space around you. If we could just breathe into Archangel Michael, moving energy, creating a space, creating a held space of peace right where you are right now. And we'll just gently breathe into that. And if we could just notice, perhaps even with the gentle movement of your shoulders or your neck, if we could just notice that there is more room, that you do have more freedom. And if we could also just notice that you are being taken care of, that you are being considered, that you are seen and heard and loved exactly as you are right now. So we'll just gently breathe into that. And as the tall Archangel Michael stands behind you, we'll just notice the very gentle and reassuring presence of Archangel Raphael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Haniel, Archangel Ariel, Archangel Raziel, all the angels we know by name. And if we could just notice with their gentle presence, the power of their presence, the power of their voices saying your name, the power of their eyes seeing you, the power of their presence. So if we could just breathe in to yourselves, recognizing that angels are here with you. And if we could let dissolve, like salt or sugar in water, if we could let dissolve any idea about conditional love, let's letting that melt away. And if we could just breathe in and relax into unconditional love, unconditional connection, unconditional peace. So we'll just gently breathe into all that. And like wiping sweat off your brow or taking a towel on the countertop, if we could just let this day be wiped away, letting any tension be cleansed away, or any fatigue. And we'll just breathe into the possibilities of this fresh moment, this fresh opportunity, and being open to receive fresh information and great reminders about what's possible and what matters. So just gently breathe into all that. And we'll just gently breathe in. And this may be speaking directly to unconscious parts of you or parts of you from the past. If we can notice where the alphabet seems scrambled, it coming into order. Anything that feels confusing, coming into order. So if we could notice confusion shifting into coherence and clarity and calm. And we'll just notice, saying this slightly differently, one of our intentions tonight is to let the things that got missed, to know they're not missed, that you are seen and heard, and that it's okay for corrections to happen. It's okay to be seen and heard. It's okay to know that there are people who care, and that you are included in all the good in the universe right now. That you are part of the healing, and that your healing, your happiness, your peace of mind matters enormously. And that incredible good is here right now. So we'll just gently breathe into all that. So we'll just gently breathe in. And if we could indeed breathe in like it's your very first breath, and just notice how good that feels, how good it is to breathe. And we'll just breathe in like it's your first breath again. And we'll notice the magnificence of your lungs, the magnificence of oxygen, and that this planet is designed to support us. So we'll just gently breathe into all that. Wonderful. So we'll notice the tall Archangel Michael behind you, helping you, supporting you. He has your back. We'll notice the other angels right with you, with assurance and reassurance. And we'll notice that there's more space. There's more space around us. There's more space within us. That the constriction has shifted into expansion. And that it's safe for more good to happen. So we'll just gently breathe into all that. And with great grace, great peace, and great love, we thank the presence of Mother, Father, God, and all the archangels and ascended masters. We thank as well the angelic realm, the elemental realm, our ancestors, spirit guides, animal guides, and guardian angels. We thank you for tremendous peace, wonderful love, and great joy being here right now. And we celebrate life, 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 life. And we thank the angels for their presence and the angels for, as always, maintaining their connection with us as we're here in every single moment. And we ask for this or something better right now in all directions of time. And so it is. Wonderful. Great. Thank you, everyone. Good work, everyone. While the spotlight is on, I'm just going to, as an introduction, I'm going to introduce Tricia, who has her own preschool called the Oak School in Colorado. And my loving description of her school, it's kids in mud, which is a great thing. And it's kids in nature. And it's kids having free play. And kids being safe enough to have play. And it's kids in an environment where they get to be themselves and are seen and heard. And Tricia will speak about this. This is a favorite picture that I think was from maybe yesterday or the day before. Wonderful. So with all this said, we're going to introduce Tricia. So Tricia, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your presence. Yeah, wonderful. I'm gonna gently put.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Glad you're here. Yeah, wonderful. So just wanted to share, just invite you to share your experience with what brought you to what you're doing. And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's been an interesting journey. It's a little bit of a loaded question or a little bit of a loaded opener because when this was presented to me, I resisted. I resisted for years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was actually living in Portland before we lived here, and I taught classes at New Renaissance. I was a meditation teacher and did some human design readings in different, just doing different various things like that, taught yoga. But I found myself increasingly, I know when I'm getting a download that I start to have um, a lot of anxiety. That's how it comes through. It's like that increased energy is coming in. And it took me years to accept that because I just thought there was something wrong with me and that I had, you know, a nervous disposition, which I actually do not. It's just, I wasn't listening. And so, I have a son as well, which also helped with this trajectory. He's now 10. But as I was teaching meditation and I was coaching adults and working with adults, and I was learning and taking classes and doing a bunch of things around early childhood education at the same time for my son, I was like, this is the same. This is the same work. Being present and mindfulness, which is just such an overused word, but it's just that idea of being aware of ourselves. It is what children do naturally, and it is where they already are naturally. And it's when they bump up against the adult world that they get kind of ricocheted off and out of being present and out of their bodies. So between the ages of 0 and 7, they're really needing to be contained, a safe container in the body. So like if you go back to original writings of Rudolf Steiner and even Maria Montessori's later work, post World War II, they both talk a lot about being present with the child and giving them safe space to explore and to play. Um, and I was interested in where we went off the rails with that in our Western culture, and notably in the United States, because that's where I live. Um, and I just started diving deeper into research and correlating between what I understood from my own meditation and mindfulness practice and what I was teaching adults, and how that could be related to an environment that supported teachers as models, and then therefore the children,
Hmm.
because the teachers or adults in a child's life, that's the that's the source of how they understand this world to be. Um, and so I wrote a book called The Whole Environment Educational Philosophy. And I was like, yay, I wrote a book. And then, no, that's not the only thing I had to do. I mean, it was one thing after the other. I was just kept being told, and I was like, really? And then they were like, yeah, you have to move to Colorado. And I was like, I do. So thankfully, my husband was on board. A lot of his family's out here too, so that helped.
Great.
Um,
Hmm.
and we moved out here during COVID. My son was um, in first grade at the time. And so because in Oregon, the kids didn't go back to school, they didn't go back inside of a building.
Hmm.
So he missed the first 2 years of school.
Hmm.
When we moved here, the kids had been they got back they went back into the buildings fairly quickly, so they didn't miss as much school. They were just masked up. And it turns out that my son is severely dyslexic, so that's been our own journey.
Hmm.
And we've had to find him his own support in a different kind of school for him. But
Hmm.
the the journey of starting the school was fraught with a lot of self-doubt and a lot of who am I, and how is this going to work? And at the same time, it was I knew it was going to work.
Yeah.
It, it's hard to describe. It was like the manifestation process in its rawest form,
Hmm.
going through it step by step, because I was in a place where I was frustrated enough and even angry enough where I wasn't getting enough. I wasn't fulfilling what I knew my potential could be.
Hmm.
And that's not coming even from an egotistical place. It was like from an energetic place of, I know I have so much more to give, and I know I have so much more that I need to do this lifetime. I just don't know what it is. And I was frustrated for a long time because I was trying
Hmm.
all sorts of different things. And then when the school idea came to me, um, it came first, it was, you need to write the book, you need to write this book. And I was like, okay, I can do that. That's safe enough. I'm in my home, I'm in front of my computer.
Hmm.
I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not taking too much risk with that. It's just, you know, publishing something. So,
Sure.
okay, I'll do that. But then starting the school, oof, that was the risk. That was like,
Hmm.
okay, now you have to walk the talk. And how are you going to, um, all these things kind of going through my mind, and then presenting myself to a completely new community here in Colorado, and connecting with parents, with teachers, with children, um, and and curating this whole
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
uh, it was anything but easy,
Hmm.
and yet it was they were just these necessary steps that were fueled by um, this very deep driven intuitive hunch.
Yeah. And I think for what's true for every single person here is why we're here, and part of our spirituality is that we know more is available, that things could be a whole lot better and a whole lot
Yes.
different. And it is a matter of what that looks like and how we do that
Yeah.
individually. And so the question is like, what did you, with your school, what did you want to create for kids? Or what have you created for kids?
I wanted to create safety and peace and a place where relationships matter. I think there's too much too soon for children, and I want to protect them. And it's not just coming from like my mother heart, although it is, it's coming from science. If you look at developmental science of the brain,
Hmm.
what we are asking children to do earlier and earlier is not only is it not okay, it's it hinders their growth and their development. And I look at my generation, which is filled with there's so much ADHD and there's so much ADD that I can't help but look at this across the board and look at some of the different ways we were raised
Hmm.
and some of the things that were pushed on us,
Hmm.
um, that literally has changed an entire generation's brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so hard for a lot of people to um, become vulnerable and to take risk into the world, but in a way that's soft,
Hmm.
in a way
Yes.
that's like you lead with your heart,
Hmm.
and instead it becomes enraged and blaming,
Hmm.
and because of fear, right?
Yeah.
But why are we so afraid? Why are we so afraid? I mean, we can all answer that in our own way.
Hmm.
And at the same time, we don't need to be. We really, really don't need to be, because when you tune into your heart, you can discern is this anxiety because I'm being told not to do something, or is this anxiety because I'm like vibrating at such a frequency that this is truth?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
when you can start to feel into that,
Hmm.
that's doors open.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. And this is once again the commonality of everyone here, of that everyone here, we're all here because we want more safety, and we know that that healing is going to change things in a positive way.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what's a day like at what's a regular day like at your school?
For me or for the kids?
For the kids. Yeah.
Um,
What do the kids experience at your school?
okay, well, they come in and we have free play for about the first hour, and then we all come together for circle, and that's a really sweet time because we're able to share. We're
Mm-hmm.
practicing listening,
Mm-hmm.
and not just hearing,
Mm-hmm.
but watching and tuning and attuning with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we go back outside. We have choice time, and there's usually just various things that are set up that they can choose to do, whether it's like play in the mud, or we do some art projects, or
Mhm.
there's a big area we use to build with. We have tires that they can build things with, and like a stump climber, great for gross motor. So children learn through movement. It's the best way to teach math is through movement, moving the body. Any kind of somatic. It's why when you remember preschool, you remember singing songs and moving your body and clapping your hands,
Mhm.
because that's how we remember things. So, yeah, true to the body keeps score. I mean, it also keeps score of the good things
Yep,
too.
for sure. For
So,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
Can we just talk for a moment about the benefits of what free play does
Okay, yeah.
for kids? Yeah. Hmm.
Oh gosh, there's a long list.
There's a long
Um,
list there, isn't there? But the main thing would be it's social skills.
yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So when we take free play out of a child's day to day,
Hmm.
we are robbing them of skills that help build executive functioning.
Hmm.
So, in free play, children are able to exert their will, and they are able to choose as like the foundation of anything. And
Hmm.
that's really important as a human being, because that it connects right back to our free will. And when we feel that our free will has been hindered, what happens? We get scared, and we have a harder time moving through life.
Hmm.
So really creating that safe place where they're able to choose what they want to do next. And not only what they want to, because they're not thinking about it, they're moving into the next thing that they want to do
Hmm.
with their bodies. And it's they're in that flow state.
Hmm.
They're also they begin to learn how to do conflict management with each other. I
Hmm.
mean, there is appropriate times where we do step in so we can model appropriate ways to say things. Like, for example, we don't make anyone share. Sharing is, I mean, I use the example of, like, if Mark came up to me in a coffee shop and was like, "Hey, I need to use your laptop. I want to share that." Like, would someone be like, "You need to share that with them?" No, that would never happen in the adult world. But for a child, it happens all the time. Yeah, that kid, give that kid your truck. He wants it. You got to share. Well, why? So we use words like, "I'm not done with it yet. I'll give it to you when I'm done." Or, um, you know, just no. And then the other child has to then learn how to feel the disappointment of that and holding space for that.
Hmm.
So there's so many, like, just the moments are tiny, but they're very big when it comes to creating a complex and healthy neuro pathway development in the brain for social emotional well-being. And the kids are constantly trying these things out, moving through these things. They're testing, and then they're using the tools that we're giving them. And in the free play, they're able to take that out into the play yard a little bit. They do the out and into the island. The teachers is the island, and they come back, and they go out and they come back. But when they go out and they're engaged in their play, they really are connected to each other. They know that relationships are important, and that they care about each other.
Hmm.
And when a child isn't in that flow, it's usually because something's going on at home,
Hmm.
or they didn't get enough sleep,
Hmm.
or they're hungry. You know, those are real too. Like, when I'm hungry, I'm not the greatest to be around.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And with the circle, the sharing time,
Mhm.
what is the facilitation of that? How are you creating that space of listening and empathy and such? How is that facilitated? Or what's the goal with that?
So there are some classroom management tools that you can use, but one of the things that I do and the teachers that I look for is how you use your voice.
Mm,
And
mm,
uh,
mhm,
the louder you are doesn't mean that you're going to be heard. It just means that you're loud.
mhm,
So often children really will respond much better to a softer tone.
mhm,
So getting quiet and leaning in helps the children lean in. And you are truly modeling what you want the children to do.
mhm,
Um, I mean, it works most of the time. Not always. Sometimes they're just little wiggle butts, you know. And
mhm,
then when they are, you have to go with that. You have to flow with that because that means it's not a day for deep sharing. But
mhm,
there are days for deep sharing.
mhm,
And they come in with their own individual things and then they click into the group dynamic and then we follow what's happening with that group for that day. So if they're being super wiggly, there are other um like brain body movements we do. There's this great woman who created something called conscious discipline.
mhm,
Her name's Dr. Becky Bailey, and she has wonderful resources that I
mhm.
train my teachers with. It's
What's that? Mhm,
it's all mindfulness based,
mhm,
social emotional learning.
mhm,
So she's working with populations all across the board. I have a very small sample size, and in her work, she does things where she's teaching children what the faces are, what they mean in empathy wise. So when you look like this, how would I feel? When you look like this, how do I feel? Sometimes children need it to be broken down that much, and that's okay. That's okay.
mhm,
So yeah, it's the children are the sample of humanity, right? And everybody is so unique and so different. And we do our best with each child that we can. And in this work, it's made me much more compassionate to my upbringing and my caregivers, where I had a lot of trauma growing up. And even my teachers, and it's made me much less judgmental and much less extreme in my understandings of how I was treated. And it's turned the focus in on me um, truly taking responsibility for how I feel about things. And it's been healing in that way.
mhm. I appreciate you sharing that. That's everyone here too. Yeah. Which
Uh,
which is unfortunate, but this is what we're here to do, is to
yeah,
heal those things, you know,
yeah,
to
yeah.
recognize that there's tools and the importance of um, everything getting better over time.
Yes. Time is the great healer.
Hmm.
And I personally keep going back to, if I hold on to this, pain or this judgment,
Hmm.
uh, or this thought, this
Hmm.
repetitive thought,
Hmm.
that's my choice.
Hmm. Yeah.
The other person doesn't care.
Hmm.
They don't even know.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
I'm harming myself.
yeah. It's where the conversation shifts to capacity. Sorry to interrupt, but it's about capacity, I think, ultimately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I interrupted you. Yeah.
Well, no, it
Mhm.
is about capacity, and that's a good segue because I was gonna say what we try to do at the school with children is, a lot of times there's this, parents like to teach their kids to tell other kids that they need space. Like if a kid's bugging them, like the kid's supposed to say, I need space. Yes, that's valid. And also, you may move your body away from that child who
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
who, you know, because then they get more and more and more angry. This is just like a very simple sample, but think about yourself in any situation where this other person might be doing something where you're getting more and more frustrated or more and more angry. How can we ultimately take responsibility for ourselves in those situations and take our power back in a way that we can do something? And often we just, whether it's like, well, you need to move your body, buddy. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have a choice here.
Mm-hmm.
Or like in my experience this past year, I had a couple teachers who I hired to do specific things, and they just could not. It Not a judgment. They just they just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt myself getting more and more frustrated. And then finally I was like, oh, I have to change my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I have to change. I have to change. And I did. It's simple things like that where I'm just like,
Yeah.
God, how can I pull my power back in this situation?
Mm-hmm.
But it's taken a lot of years,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of meditation, and a lot of mindfulness.
Yes. And we're not done.
And we're not done. I'm nowhere near done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Um, I appreciate you doing what you're doing. Let's why don't we shift into questions if that's okay
yeah,
with
yeah.
you? Yeah, wonderful. Melanie, do you have a question or you want to start with?
Yeah, well, I took a lot of notes.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Mhm.
Your school sounds amazing. I want to go to it. I guess one question I would have, we were just talking about anger and capacity, and I was a child who had a lot of anger, and did not know how to channel that. And my family did not understand. They didn't know how to channel it, and it sort of wasn't even really addressed ever, at least not to me. So I guess I have a question about when you can't tell the root of a child's anger, how do you help them? Or what is a tool for, I guess, getting deeper or calming them? Because I want to be able to help other children who experience that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is a great question. And this is something that I work on constantly, and it's helped me. So you don't judge it. So I call, um, so as a parent, but also as a teacher and any kind of a loving adult, we can think of ourselves as toilets for children. I am not kidding. You don't need to know why a child is angry. You don't need to know why your partner is angry. You don't need to know why your friend is angry, but you can be a listener. And you can just look at them like, well, for a child, for example, you get down on their level so that you're at their eye level. And you say, yeah, buddy, I'm noticing you're mad. And you might just leave it at that. And it depends on how well you know the child too. If it's your own child, you would do that. And then they might hit you, kick you, and you don't let them hurt you. You can say in a calm voice, I'm not going to let you hurt me. But you also can stay in the vicinity. I can see you're very angry. I'm not going to let you hurt me. I'm going to be right over here. And then you sit down and you wait. And you hold the space, the container, the toilet, however you want to call it. As parents, we joke about that stuff, but I know this probably isn't the right.
We use humor all the time here.
Okay,
It's all
okay,
good.
okay.
It's all good.
But it is about
So,
holding space.
yeah. Yeah.
And if they're really little,
Mhm.
if they're 2, they probably aren't going to be able to hurt you. So you would actually hold them on your lap and you'd let them flail, and they're going to sweat and they're going to scream and their eyes are shut. So, usually when the child is under the age of 9, I'm going to say 9, when their eyes are shut and they're screaming, that's the volcano. That's the emoting. That's the anger that needs to come out, because where else is it going to go? We all know. But you could give them the gift of letting it come out. And then when it's starting to end, when they can open their eyes and they make eye contact with you. And that's when you can start to shift them. Would you like a glass of water? Can we take a walk? No? Okay, you're going to do more? Okay, great. But then the really important part is that you must go take care of yourself after that, because that's a lot of energy. That's a big load that you just took on,
Mhm.
a little person.
Mhm.
But it's a gift. It's a gift you're giving that kid. Because it makes it okay to feel your feelings. They know they're safe, right? And they know that they don't have to hold on to it alone.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you, Tricia. Great question, Melanie. Lori, I see your question. We'll get to there in just a moment. In adult land, in adult trauma land, what I know from my decades of therapy and EMDR and all that stuff, and also from doing readings for a long time, is when there's anger, the fear is right behind it.
Oh,
And
for sure.
the fear is usually terror, not fear.
And
Yeah.
that's the squeezing of the eyes
Mm-hmm.
and the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's terror. And that's unconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually pre-verbal. So if any of you were Dr. Spock children,
Mm-hmm.
cried out babies, there could be some stuff there from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just sometimes it's nice to know these things, because it's like, oh, it's not
It's just,
personal.
yeah.
Like, there's something wrong with me. My brain was just wired like,
Yeah. Well,
way,
exactly.
know?
Yeah. And this is the whole point of what Melanie and I are doing here is that with the series is to focus on solutions and to recognize, one, that things are getting better, but also that there's mechanisms in place when I'm angry or witnessing someone being angry, it's just seeing like, well, there's fear somewhere in there,
Yeah, for sure.
and that we're aggressively protecting our fear. We're aggressively protecting part of ourselves and trying to make sure something doesn't happen. And just
Yeah,
seeing at the core, trauma is the desire for that to never happen again,
right.
which might not be an elegant solution, but it's the main impulse is for that to not happen again.
Right.
And where our healing happens is learning to articulate that, to have that self-knowledge and all that, to hear Melanie's experience and say, like, I'm really sorry that happened. That's not fair. That's not fair. That happened. And
Yeah.
to recognize that we're getting better at this stuff. Yeah. 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 Wonderful. Lori, do you want to
Melanie,
share? Sorry, were you going to say something?
just one other thing,
Yeah.
Melanie, if you're feeling that, if you yourself are feeling that inner child anger, and you have a trusted, beloved friend or someone who can witness you, you can like go throw plates in an alley, like go to the Goodwill and pick up 20 pieces of china and throw them as hard as you can and say anything you want and just get as angry as you want and just have someone witnessing you that you love is very healing as well. Sometimes you could do that with like a Hakomi therapist, but if you don't have, like access to
Yeah.
that, just
Yeah.
get a loving person
Yeah.
who won't judge you and who's there for it.
That's a beautiful solution. And also just acknowledging, and we'll get to Lori's question here, is, the joke, which is true, which is, let's name all the socially acceptable ways there are for women to express anger. Anybody, and just getting past that into, yeah, exactly, zero. And getting past that into, it's okay to have anger. It's also okay for anger to move.
Oh my gosh, my anger is one of my most powerful
Mm-hmm.
aspects. It's what keeps me honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's what keeps me in integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what keeps me true to myself, which is better for everybody around me.
Right on. Good deal. Yeah. Thank you both for sharing all that. Lori, what's your question?
Ooh, that's big.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick point on that before I ask my question, which is, I think because perhaps many of us didn't have that kind of processing, we might instinctively do that for others now to an extreme. I'm here for you. Have your anger. I'm here for you. Have your anger. I'll witness. I'll be nearby. And I think you're right. It's a lot of energy. Yeah. Okay. Here's my question. I think you started to answer it, and I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable putting on my video today. So thank you for knowing that I'm here
We hear you.
without my face.
I love your sculpture face there.
I'm looking for the name of the artist to give credit. Oh, it really moves me. Here's the question. So at the end of a big that you've just been describing, and even a well processed, well supported, well witnessed, the question of, well, then how do you do repair and move on from that intense energy to the return to joy and harmony and peace is something that I think we're not taught a lot as kids.
Right.
Especially, so you just sit there, or just no repair. And I see that in adults as well. Like, so now what do? We both said, okay, and now what? So I wondered if you could talk to how you handle that with little kitties. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So, our bodies, so children are in their bodies, right? They're not in their heads yet. I mean, they can be, and they're bopped out of their heads constantly by their parents and by everyone around them. But if we can keep them in their bodies for as long as possible, it's better because our bodies know what to do. And our bodies know how to heal. And our bodies know how to process things. And we have so learned to not trust how we feel in our bodies and our own even ability to heal physically from illness. And there's of course things that we can do to support that, but with the children, the really important part is that once they're okay, so say it's like two kids and one is saying, I want that toy, and the other kid's like, no, and then the other kid just like starts bawling. The important piece is that we hold the space for that child, and we say, yeah, that's tough. Like, you're frustrated. Give them words. Yeah, you don't like that. And you as the adult just stay there with the kid until it has moved through them. And I'm telling you, it moves through them depending on what's been going on in their life and their during the morning or the day before. It can be anywhere from 30 seconds to 20 minutes of like pretty devastating crying or just hurt feelings. But once it's moved through the body, there's no question the child's like, oh, I'm better. Like it is like night and day. All of a sudden they're just able to, they make eye contact and they're like, sometimes they don't even say anything. They just look at you and it's like, I'm done. And then they're like, they go on and they find something else to do very easily. And then they play really well for the rest of the day. And then they take a really good nap, usually, if they have that kind of a, and the nap is where, when we sleep, right? That's when all of the healing and the repair work like fuses together, the learning. So I think as adults, because we weren't, none of, well, I'm not going to say none of us, because I have met
Yes, we could say none of us. Yeah.
okay. I have met a few
Most of us.
individuals,
Most of us. Yeah.
most of us. I have met a few lucky individuals who have had that. And the more meditation really can change you. It really can change you, because the way that I used to teach meditation was that you are just observing your thoughts. You are getting to know yourself. And it's the same what you're doing with children when you're holding the space for when they're, and like, we don't want to, it's uncomfortable and we don't know how to hold space for ourselves. But if you meditate and you hold the space for yourself consistently, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes a day, 2 minutes a day, you will start to build that neural pathway in your brain so that when you get into a situation where you're like, yeah, I can hold space. No, I'm not holding space for you. I don't got this. I don't got it right now. And you'll be okay. You'll start to be okay with that. Or you'll get into a space where you're like, yeah, I can hold the space for you. And now I need to like go and do what I need to do for the self-care aspect of like moving both of our energies out of my system, because that was a lot.
Yeah.
Like, just to, maybe I wasn't totally clear how I asked earlier. You were saying you might say to the child, would you like a drink of water? Would you like to take a walk? And that's the moment that I'm wondering about, when there's been a problem with either the person inside him or herself or with another, and it's metabolized and they're sitting there. How do we teach little ones to know how to move back to joy? And I think I'm hearing you saying they know as soon as it's metabolized. And maybe as adults, we don't know quite how to do that. You're sitting with somebody your own age and you're like, well, we just went through that. And now what do we do? Without that training, I'm like, well, should we get a drink of water? Or, or without feeling like, ooh, I don't want to sweep that under the rug. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's a natural and holistic and honest way to move forward and change the channel, as Mark might say, to the next thing?
With an adult?
Or even with a child that doesn't know how to just say, I know what to do now.
Give the child space and they will know. So let's start with the child. There are different ways to hold space for a child depending on their age. And the younger they are, it's a little bit more of a physical situation where you're maybe putting them on your lap and holding them, and they are arching and they are flailing and their eyes are squeezed shut and they're screaming. And you're just saying soothing words like, I hear you. Yep. Yeah, that was hard. I hear you. And they are somatically moving whatever that feeling is out of their body. So at age 3 is when we first feel shame. That's the age when shame for the first time we feel shame. Oh, that is the lowest vibration available. Shame vibrates at the same level as a corpse. Okay? A corpse still has a vibration. And shame is the same vibration as a corpse. So of course a child is going to if they ever feel shame, they're going to want to get that out. Once they've moved through it, they'll sweat, they won't look at you. But when they start to look at you and they're 2, 3, maybe even 4, 4-year-olds can start to get a little too big for this kind of holding. But once they start to look at you, that's when you know that it's like has mostly kind of worked itself through. And it's a practice of learning how to stay, it's called stay listening. And you stay with them until it's done. And then you might suggest, you want to get a drink of water? But most often than not, if you just keep a loving gaze, you keep that, it's a loving connection through your eyes and your soft voice. The child will look at you after a while and say, I'm hungry. Because that was a workout.
Yeah, because it changes.
So
Mhm.
they've totally changed their entire chemistry because they have let go physically with a
Mhm.
loving witness.
Yeah.
As adults, we have the choice of who we lovingly witness
Mhm.
and who lovingly witnesses us. And oftentimes it's through, a therapist is a great safe choice for those types of witnessing.
Mhm.
A beloved friend or partner sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes not. Sometimes it's too much, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
And so if you have just gone through something with an adult and you are like, what do we do now? I think sometimes the best thing to do is if you both aren't ready and there's not like if it if there isn't some kind of resolution in that moment, there might need to be can we revisit this? I need to take some time.
Mhm.
Um, I think sometimes we want to repair things more quickly than we're ready or than they're ready. And so
Yeah.
it's honoring that too.
Mhm.
Mark, what do you think?
Um, all the above, and in recognizing what we're doing with spirituality is shortening the distance between incoherence and coherence.
Mhm.
And it's similar to what you're talking about with meditation. And it is the space of recognizing that we're building tools for this over time.
Yep.
And so the us, the we, the you who is here doing this right now, that's an interesting part of you. That's an interesting part of us, that we're engaged in this right now, that we're wanting, it is, everyone here is in their conscious adult self because we're making the world bigger, not smaller. We're not reconfirming what we already know. We're allowing something different to happen, which adds to the toolbox. And it's recognizing that we are all experts in our own pain. We already know what doesn't work. And so the desire for that pain to end or to abate or to lessen, to diminish, is our goal. And we're after grace. And it's a seeing what creates grace, and to
Mhm.
have muscles around grace, and to
Mhm.
recognize that in essence there is no shortcut, but there is relief. And it's just allowing there to be moments of relief. And it is perhaps often easier to this is different for everyone, but to self-regulate,
Mhm.
and or to do that with someone else, a trusted person, or to let something external, to be it a crystal that says hope, or a talking head CD, let something happen that that changes things. But it's
Mhm.
recognizing the complexity of everyone, and that everyone, our commonality right now is everyone's dealing with trauma,
Mhm.
and that our goal is to heal the trauma or to understand the trauma, which is a healing in itself. And that things are getting better. It doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
But why, specifically, and I've already said this, why I wanted my friend Tricia to come on is that she's part of the solution. But also, Melanie's part of the solution, September, Tulasi, Shelley, everyone here, Karen, Melissa, Jolene, Allison, everyone's part of the solution. And what we're doing in that is dropping out of the repetition of harm and punishment and recognizing where there is the innocent child and that we're not going to beat up the 5-year-old anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And to be kind, but to recognize how core and how early these wounds are and where we have gotten stuck. And that our collective interest is to get unstuck. And I think it's helpful. I mentioned this last week and I actually was just at New Renaissance where Melanie is, and it's a book called Healing Developmental Trauma. And developmental trauma is between being in the womb and 3 years old when you have a parent who is left or is checked out or is alcoholic or is just not available. And that the infant changes their psychology, changes their brain chemistry to please the adults as opposed to receive care. I suspect that's most everyone here. And it's this seeing where what I found, in my EMDR therapist years ago introduced me to that book. And it brought me so much relief to recognize, oh, someone gets me. Someone understands what happened. And I think we could hold that space not only for ourselves, but for each other. And in talking to a lot of people in groups and in sessions and such, part of the healing is validation, which is, I see what's happening with you, and that's not okay that it happened. Let's make it better. And it's not in authentic ways, it's authentic ways. Like, what would make things better, But just understanding in the layout of wounded child, compliant child, defiant child, that who's angry, who's hurt, and what would bring relief. So once again, I think with the knowledge that you have and you're sharing, and that you're creating harmony for more kids, and let's affirm this gets integrated into everywhere, that what most of us experience won't happen again. Yeah. Melanie, what are your thoughts about all this? Or what impression do you have? Or
I think there's a lot of power in this Zoom and in all of us. And
there is. Yeah.
I'm just grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I'm grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I appreciate that. I think it's also worth acknowledging, as we acknowledge what Melanie shared about herself, like that even if we have hard things happen, that we could still become dynamic people. And it's just, I think as we get older, we do heal the past.
I think it's because we have hard things happen that
Yeah.
we become dynamic people.
Mm-hmm.
And the gift is that we've experienced the other side so that we know how to do it better.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. And we know what we know what hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
We can create dynamics where that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wonderful. Good. Wonderful. Maybe we should let it go here, huh? Sound good? Yeah. Thank you, Tricia, for sharing so much and for sharing your story. And also I appreciate what you're doing, and that you're doing it. And that's a great thing. Let's affirm that this gets duplicated and that you reach, that you were heard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was lovely meeting you all.
You're welcome. I appreciate you being here. And I really do want to acknowledge everyone who's here right now on Zoom. Appreciate your presence. appreciate your listening and just really wanting to honor everyone for everything that we have experienced, and also in appreciation for those who have kids like Karen and such, just that we get to garner more information. I want to acknowledge Melanie for representing the store and holding a great space. And so with that, if you don't have a copy, The Body Keeps a Score and Want One, that book right there, yes, that actual book, there's that, and that the store both in Portland and online has a copy of the book I just mentioned, Healing Developmental Trauma by Lawrence Heller, and there's also a workbook that is a couple years old that they have also for that. Okay, and we'll meet again next week and the week after. Okay, I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate your listening and your presence and your contribution. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
all.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Mark, Melanie, and Tricia.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome. Take care, everyone. Yeah. You guys want to hang out a second? We'll say hi. Okay. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Ines.